If you've seen the trailer for They Will Kill You, then you probably think you know all there is to know about the film. But is there more? A woman takes a job as a housekeeper in a New York City high-rise, but what starts as a gig from hell spirals into a fight for survival against ritualistic horrors and twisted loyalties. Despite the trailer showing pretty much the entire plot and gist of the movie, there are a few story elements it holds back to make this ever so slightly more complex of a tale. We've got Zazie Beetz, who shows up for work at this ominous-looking New York apartment building. And after a strange and sudden meeting with the super, who's played by Patricia Arquette, she quickly finds out that the building's tenants are way more intense and zealous than they appear. The styling of this feels like a mix of Wes Anderson meets Quentin Tarantino, with much less influence from the former. Some sequences involve a chase through a very tight space, and the way that it's presented and framed, it looks like a scene out of Fantastic Mr. Fox. Some of the symmetry is also very Anderson-esque, but then there are the chapter titles that break away as an aside to let us in on background knowledge of a character or history before returning to all the carnage. And all throughout we've got these massive blood spatters and vicious sword battles that come across as heavily influenced by Tarantino. But hidden in there is also this helping of Sam Raimi, bringing in some gross but silly visuals that would feel right at home with Ash. The plot for this is pretty simple, and that's just fine too. I mean, it's 94 minutes of mostly nonstop hand-to-hand battles and gory chases through hallways and ballrooms. And when the action's taking place, the camera swings us around the room to seamlessly capture the varying angles and attacks that are occurring, sometimes utilizing quick cuts to jostle us back and forth, but so many times it's like this wonderfully choreographed samba of slaughter. And since the film already borrows from a few other movies, we also get a few imitation sequences of the corridor scene in Oldboy. And while this isn't as polished or impressive, it still adds effective excitement to the chase. The action is energetic and has a hefty momentum, especially when combined with a driving soundtrack. And this doesn't skimp on the gore either. There are nasty close-ups of all sorts of ways to die, many involving geysers of blood and appendages being removed. For the slasher fans, this one delivers on the gruesomeness in satisfying ways. And when all this is going on, there's a great pacing to the story. I mean, if you can call it a story. I mean, yeah, there is some background motivation on why Beetz' character ends up at this apartment building from hell, and it is somewhat engaging, if not predictable or generic, but it does create enough of an impetus to make sense for the savage progression that we watch play out. When the brutality is displayed, there are so many moments that will make you wince and laugh uncomfortably, especially when Beetz experiences some utterly painful wounds. Massive disbelief needs to be suspended for this movie, but that's also what makes it kind of entertaining. But then when we reach the third act, and for some odd reason, the story decides to just slam on the brakes, give us a bunch of exposition, halting all of the momentum. I mean, I guess in an effort to kind of craft an emotionally touching or conflicting segment. The story didn't require this deeper examination into the therapeutic catharsis of forgiveness or absolution, and it fumbles the execution right near the finish. But luckily there is a wildly hilarious and ridiculous final boss battle that returns us to the creative exterminations, so at least the movie has the opportunity to redeem itself from that dip into dramatic posturing. It felt so out of place to have this stop down, but then we're out of it and back right into the action. And that finale, it is bat crap crazy. You'll probably laugh at how preposterous it is, but it kind of fits within the rest of the premise. A portion is as if Raimi had directed The Lord of the Flies, fully embracing the chaotic visuals to create this ridiculously awesome monstrosity. Now, in addition to the two leads that I had mentioned before, this also stars Tom Felton, Heather Graham, Myha'la, and Paterson Joseph. And they all have minor-ish roles, but each adds the necessary oddities that feel just right at home within the story. And even if you've watched the trailer and you think you know what the outcome for some of the characters is, don't be too sure. The film does enjoy using some of its lore to its advantage. Now, I really enjoyed Patricia Arquette in this because she's unhinged and vicious in all the right ways, just tempering it at appropriate moments with this calm, almost unnerving restraint. But she's then using a strange Irish brogue in her speech, and it was inconsistent, so then it became distracting rather than effective. And I'm impressed and enthralled by Zazie Beetz' physical performance. She's performing all sorts of fighting acrobatics and pulls them off as if she's some killer assassin. Her movements are fluid and charged, completing the illusion that she's this unstoppable ferocity hell-bent on accomplishing her goal. And beyond her physicality, I love the intensity that's shown in her eyes, almost for the entirety of the film. It doesn't matter if she's in pain, silently pleading, or mid-act swing. The passion of 1,000 fiery suns blazes in her expressive eyes, making her an opponent you definitely don't want to face. This is a fun movie for what it is. It takes, or maybe steals, inspiration from other directors and storytelling, while also delivering an exciting and bloody action piece that's light on meaningful story, but heavy on butchery. Zazie Beetz and Patricia Arquette are excellent foes as the pursuit through confined spaces and tight corridors leads us through a labyrinth of death. There's nothing novel or unique about this presentation, and the story kills the energy unnecessarily, but this still manages to craft a barbaric ballet you can enjoy with friends. Now, while I will watch this again, I won't pay to see it. When it comes to streaming, I will certainly revisit for the swashbuckling sword fights and frenzied fights. There's brief sex and nudity, ton of profanity, and a crap ton of violence. I give They Will Kill Us 3.5 out of 5 couches. At least the movie knows what it is, and it doesn't try to stray too far from the craziness. Okay, are there any brutal action films that you love to watch? I've had fun with movies like The Raid, Mayhem, and The Belko Experiment, but let me know some of yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.